The next day, Anna tried to brush off the experience, telling herself it was just a trick of her tired mind. But she couldn't stop thinking about the mirror, about the shadow that seemed to move on its own. She tried to ignore it, but the house seemed to be growing more oppressive. The air was thick, heavy with something she couldn't explain. That evening, the whispers began. At first, they were faint, like the sound of distant voices murmuring just out of reach. But by midnight, they were clear, echoing through the house, low and sinister. Anna's heart pounded in her chest as she followed the voices down the long hallway. She stopped at the door to the basement, which had always felt cold and unwelcoming. The whispers were louder now, coming from the depths below. Gathering what little courage she had left, she opened the door and stepped into the darkness. The air smelled damp and earthy, and the darkness seemed to swallow her whole. She took a step down the stairs, feeling the cold of the stone against her bare feet, the whispers growing louder as she descended. At the bottom of the stairs, she found something she hadn't noticed before, an old, forgotten door, hidden behind a pile of crates and dust. The whispers came from behind it, beckoning her. Against her better judgment, Anna pushed the door open. Inside, the room was small, its walls covered in old, frayed tapestries and strange symbols. In the center of the room was a large, ornate mirror. She froze when she saw it, for the reflection it showed was not her own. It was the same figure from the hallway, standing in the center of the room, staring at her. But this time, the figure smiled. Anna stumbled back, her heart racing. The whispers were louder now, chanting in a language she couldn't understand. She looked closer at the mirror, and she realized that it wasn't reflecting her at all. The figure in the mirror was moving, coming closer, its eyes dark, its smile widening. Before she could turn to run, she felt a cold hand on her shoulder. She spun around, but no one was there. She turned back to the mirror. The figure was no longer smiling. It was reaching out toward her. With a scream, Anna tried to break free, but the shadow had already overtaken her. The darkness of the mirror pulled at her, like a void, sucking her in. She felt her body being dragged toward the glass, her breath catching in her throat as she was pulled closer and closer. The last thing she saw was her own reflection, smiling back at her, its hollow eyes staring through her soul.